Hello, welcome to the second lesson in the A module. This is aptitude adjustment, a little bit of levity for your day. Streamlining apps, notifications, and settings for a more balanced digital life. Did you know this? You have the ability to sculpt your digital environment to make phone overuse a thing of the past. This is the important part here. This is you, right? You do. Literally you, the person, we, us, me, you. You have the ability. You have the ability to sculpt and change the way that you interact with your digital environment. It's literally up to you. It's all about making the choice to do so. And lucky for you, I've got a whole slide on ways that you can do this. In fact, there was a 2022 study published in the International Journal of Mental Health and Addiction that tested nudge-based approaches to curbing phone addiction. The study found reductions in problematic smartphone use, screen time, depressive symptoms, and improved sleep quality after just 2 weeks compared to the control group. The intervention returned problematic smartphone use scores to normal levels for at least 6 weeks after the study. So the main point here is that nudges work. Small changes end up as big results. So we have a bunch of different ways that we can sort of nudge our phone in the right direction, and I'd love to go over them with you. So the first one is setting a wallpaper from my wallpaper pack. I've provided you with a number of wallpapers here that remind you that, hey, you don't have to be on your phone. Did you know that? So setting a background on your phone, whether it's from my pack or just changing the background to something way less distracting or stimulating, is a great way to start nudging yourself towards a more mindful approach. Putting your phone on grayscale. This is one that I've talked about a number of times in my videos online, but just making your phone less attractive is a great way to begin curbing phone addiction. You can disable touch or face ID. This may seem inconvenient at first, but that is literally the point. Making your phone harder to get into, making something more difficult, that is an aspect of breaking a habit. So an easy way to do that is to disable the way you get into it in the first place. Utilizing Do Not Disturb, customized for essential notifications only. This is something I've been doing for a long time now, just recognizing a place or a time when I am most on my phone and tuning my Do Not Disturb functionality to that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but utilize Do Not Disturb. We all have it on our phones. Whether or not we use it is up to you. Turning off notifications. This is a huge one. I'm sure you've done this already for a number of apps, but just becoming a little bit more meticulous over what notifications you really let through is super key to moving towards a more mindful approach. Opting out or unsubscribing from emails that you don't need. This is a huge one. There are a number of apps that allow you to do this. The one that I love the most is called Maelstrom. It's a desktop app that allows you to sort your inbox by sender or time sent or marketing. It also allows you to bulk unsubscribe from emails. So opting out and unsubscribing from emails that you don't need is an awesome way to begin looking at your phone less and not subsiding to the temptation of an email notification. Unfollowing people. This is a huge one that you don't give a rip about. Unfollowing people that you don't actually care about is huge. There's so many people that you probably scroll past on a daily basis, maybe on an hourly basis, that you don't really have a personal connection to, and keeping up with them just isn't really adding anything to your life. So unfollow people. I give you permission, and I guarantee they probably don't care. Only use social media on desktop. This is a huge one. If you can limit your accessibility by deleting apps on your phone and only using those apps on your desktop, highly recommend it. It is such a great way to begin being a little bit more mindful about how you use social media. Here's a couple more here. You can optimize your digital assistant like Siri or whatever they have on Android to increase friction. There are apps to do this, utilizing the shortcuts feature to switch you out of an app every time you click on it. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Utilize screen time blockers. That's the same idea. Turn down your phone's brightness and turning on night shift. While this doesn't necessarily solve the problem of you picking up your phone, if you can keep your phone on a low brightness, it's just harder to see, which makes you want to use it way less. Hiding like counts on social media. If you're going to be on social media, at least tune social media a little bit to make a healthier environment for you. I've been hiding like counts since they introduced the feature because I can't stand it. It just makes me feel horrible as a creator, and then as a consumer as well. It gives me a false pretense of how these brands or these people are, because people can just buy likes, right? So hide likes. Use social media with the sound off. This is another huge one. Obviously, it's an auditory experience, but if you can force yourself and be really mindful and really diligent about not using social media with your phone, with your sound, you'll be better off, in my opinion. I talked about this in the introduction, but physically separate yourself from your phone, have it in a completely different room. So the option to have a taptation and pick it up is not even there. That is maybe one of my favorite ones. Log out of social media, so you have to log in every time you use the app. James Clear writes about, I believe, a person who sent the login to his Instagram to a trusted friend and had that trusted friend change the login every single week, so that every time he wanted to log into his Instagram or social media account, there'd be an extra hurdle, which would be bothering another person to see what that person changed the password to. If you really want it, you'll do things like that. Log out of social media, huge one. Set your password to a long phrase like, I'm using my phone right now. This is so cool. Liam came up with this. This is a great one. If you set your phone to have a long password instead of just numbers, and also if you turn off Face ID or Touch ID, you will be forced to literally type out the sentence, I'm going on my phone, or I'm using my phone right now. That is such a huge one. And again, it's all about how bad do you want it. Changing your phone's password to something as long as that is a huge way to, again, cultivate a little bit more awareness, which is sort of the theme for this entire course, definitely this module. It is an awesome way to become a little bit more aware. So try some of these out, screenshot, take notes on these, implement some of these right now before we move on to the next slide, which is all about getting granular with notifications. App notifications are literally designed to trigger phone use. It's called a notification. It's supposed to notify you of picking up your phone. Optimizing and minimizing them is the key to reducing phone use. Here's what happens every time you get a notification. We're chugging along at a regular dopamine level, and then all of a sudden we get a notification, and then we're back down here, right? Not a super healthy way to interact with your dopamine. And that is exactly what phones and notifications are leveraging and taking advantage of, is the dopamine spike, which is, as we know, a huge factor in addiction. It's kind of a gateway drug to just being on your phone, no matter what notification you get, right? Could be an email from a client or your mom texting you, but either way, it is you picking up your phone, which is an entire world of distractions and things that you shouldn't necessarily be looking at a given time. So decide which notifications aren't absolutely necessary and which ones are necessary, because there are definitely some necessary notifications that you can make use of. But turning more off than turning more on is a much more mindful approach. Set up focus modes for different times of day that only let essential notifications through. When I'm at work, I don't get notifications from certain people that text me. Not that they text me super often. I would just rather be as locked in as possible on the things that I need to accomplish. So it's a simple but effective switch, being more granular about your notifications. And it's something that, again, is one of those things that if you really want it, you would change. So just become a little bit more aware also of the notifications that you get throughout the day. I for the longest time would get notifications from an app that would get you cheap flights. And 6 months ago or so, I put in a flight that said I wanted to go to New York. And because of that, it would continually give me updates on flights to New York and when they're at their lowest. And I would not buy a flight from a notification. Every time it comes up, I would just swipe away, but then all of a sudden I'm on my phone. So finding all of the things that are like that are unnecessary notifications, are key to turning off and understanding a little bit more about why and when you use your phone. Here we'll talk about mastering the do not disturb function. And the big idea here is this. That is going from compulsivity to intentionality. Compulsivity to intentionality. That is literally the change that we're making when we're changing our digital environments. We're going from a compulsive behavior, which is picking up our phone at times that we don't need, and moving it to a more intentional approach, right? Being more intentional about when you pick up your phone and knowing that you want to pick up your phone picking up your phone isn't a bad thing, but if you know why you're picking up your phone and you're doing it for a specific reason, maybe to look something up or to text someone, that is the pocket that we want to be in. We don't want to pick it up just so we can scroll or just so we can allow ourselves to be distracted. So there are focus modes that you can set up on your phone that allow you to kind of leverage this intentionality. I'm not going to spend time going over how to set those up because there's plenty of resources. In fact, your phone literally tells you how to do it. But just, again, think about all of the times that you most commonly pick up your phone and then make a focus mode for that. You can tie focus modes to location or certain times of day. Maybe you do it in the morning when you find that you're most commonly on your phone. You can do it when you get to work. Your phone will literally know when you get to work, and it can turn on a focus mode automatically. It can be automated in the background. Maybe you have one for the evening, or maybe you have one for just winding down before bed. Tie it to specific times, locations, and places. I've been integrating this into my life, and even for an hour, knowing that I can't go on Instagram, and when I'm recognizing when I have a temptation, it just feels so much better, and it just feels more fulfilling is the best way to put it. I've also set a 45-minute cap on phone use for apps like Instagram and Threads and Facebook and other, social media. And just seeing those apps grayed out is such a wonderful visual reminder of what I'm supposed to be doing, which is probably not being on my phone. I can't, anyone can just hit the remind me in 15 minutes, but just seeing them grayed out is such a good trigger to remembering why you're doing all of this, which I think is very key. So set up do not disturb in your own way. Again, I'm not going to go over it because it's completely up to you. The point here is setting up do not disturb and focus modes is key to minimizing your phone triggers. Okay, here we will talk about establishing specific on-screen times. So again, it's not horrible to be on your phone. I think it's fine to have a little bit of entertainment in your day, but it's when it starts taking over your life that it becomes a problematic thing. So establish specific times to be on your screens for communication and entertainment so that screen time doesn't get out of control. In order to do this, you will need to decide on-screen times. You will need to know when those times are. You can identify specific hours where usage is necessary. Maybe you need it for work, and that's fine. Maybe you need it for certain people you want to communicate with, and that's okay. And you can allocate specific time slots for social media. Again, I don't want to, completely villainize social media, although it is invented by lizards in Silicon Valley. But there are times when entertainment is okay, and doing it in a healthy manner and approaching it with a mindful, mind in mind. I guess a little bit more awareness is the key here. The next thing you want to do is set boundaries. This can be done with the do not disturb mode or just setting physical boundaries in your space. You can employ a no screens rule during meals before bed or during family time. Growing up, I didn't have a smartphone, and B, was heavily enforced by my mom and my parents to not be watching TV and to be fully present in having a conversation with my family. So setting boundaries is a must. Using reminders or alarms is a huge one. So do not disturb will send you a notification, a useful notification that lets you know that you have 5 minutes left on the app that you've set a limit to. You can also remind yourself when it's time to start or end screen use, just with a reminder or an alarm just coming up at certain points of the day when maybe you know that you're going to be on your phone. Maybe you don't set up a do not disturb mode, but maybe you set up an alarm for 12:30, which is when you're eating lunch, which is maybe hypothetically when you might find yourself using your phone. Setting up the things that your phone already has on it to remind you to get off your phone is an awesome way to begin changing your digital environment to have it work for you. And then lastly here, be consistent. The more consistent you are with adhering to your screen time boundaries and the things that you've employed to get you off your screen, the better. I found that when I stopped using social media for more than 45 minutes, which is the limit that I set up on my do not disturb, I found I just naturally did that. I found even though I had those limits in place, I wasn't picking up my phone to go on social media. So the more consistent you are, the better. And we already learned that you don't have to be making an all or nothing change in one day. Starting small is the most important thing that you can do. Okay, so here's some systems for digital organization. Again, this is heavily reliant on you, the individual, but establish specific on-screen times for communication or entertainment so screen time doesn't get out of control. Gonna cut that. It's incredibly important to set up your digital environment in a way that works for you. And again, this is up to the individual. There are a lot of ways and a lot of resources out there that will show you how to set up your phone. This is mine here. This is my current home screen. There are three main things that you want to consider when you're setting up your home screen. That is removing apps. So I don't have any social media apps on my home screen here. And that is very intentional, obviously, to limit my usage and to also make it way harder to find. You can also prioritize helpful apps and widgets. Just put down prioritize function here because there's so many functional things that phones can do and that you can set up on your home screen. For example, I've got my calendar app here that shows me exactly what's going on, both for work and for life. And that's just a quick glance at my calendar. And then the last one here is removing distractions. That doesn't have to be just social media necessarily. It can be apps that don't need to take up space on your home screen. I don't have to flip through my apps on my screen. I don't have to go to multiple pages to get to apps. Everything I need on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, is right where I need it. You can see here, I record a lot of voiceovers for work and for just making content. Obviously, email is very important. I've got notes right there to capture a note or a thought whenever I need it. Email is incredibly important to me. I've got notifications turned off, however, for it. I've got the weather here for Portland. I suppose I should have started at the top. But I've got a shortcuts widget set up here for all of the essential things that I need. I got one for creating a note, which is just about whenever I have a thought or an idea that I want to remember, I can click on this and it'll automatically make a note in my inbox. I've got a sleep analysis one for when I go to sleep. I just hit that and it automatically starts my sleep analysis application. I've got my one wheel button whenever I'm cruising on the wheel. It's nice to know the stats of how my wheel is doing or how fast I'm going and where I'm going. And then I also have a remember this widget, which is an awesome little shortcut that I've been experimenting with. I didn't make it, but if you tap on it, it'll take you to the camera app where you can take a photo of whatever moment you're in, and then it automatically adds it to a note. So experimenting with shortcuts and finding all of the efficiencies there is super key for me. Then I've got my calendar here, which shows me all the things going on in my day, in my life, both for work and personal stuff. That's also a great place to put reminders. That'll always just be present on your home screen. And then moving down here, I've got all of the essential apps, and there's really only 7 of them that I use, probably less than that on a consistent basis. But I have voice memos for doing voiceovers or recording voice notes for things that I want to remember. I've got a photos app. I'm constantly airdropping content from my phone to my computer. I've got a notes app if I want to go in and reference a note that I took before. And I've got my email app where I have the notifications turned off, so it's not buzzing off the hook. I've got my weather app here, so I always know what I need to wear when I leave the house. Messages, camera, Safari, and then I've got a folder of music and podcast stuff right there at the bottom. So that is my home screen. There are plenty of resources out there that'll help you change your phone screen for good and different templates that you can follow. This is mine. I think it's completely up to you how you want it. The point is remove apps that distract you, prioritize function, and remove any other distractions that could steer you from your course. Okay, so here's some digital ways to stay on track. There are a bunch of different apps out there that can help you rather than hinder you. And the important part here is to recognize the incredible opportunity you have to use your phone as a tool for productivity rather than mindless scrolling. So employ a task management application. So there's tons out there. Again, this is sort of up to you. You don't have to do any of this. Just use the ones that make the most sense. Task management. There are tons out there. There's Asana, Trello, Todoist, Monday. There's a bunch that work for you. Even the Reminders app on the iPhone is great. You can utilize digital calendars. This is an awesome one. I think it's amazing. Like, our brain can only do so much and keep track of so many things. But if you have a digital calendar in mind, that is an awesome way to keep track of the things that are important to you. The next one here is note taking. Again, it is critically important to capture any and all thoughts that you want to remember. And if you can streamline that process with a note-taking app, or like I have a note-taking shortcut, the better. And then another one here is adopting mindfulness apps. There are tons of apps out there. One of my favorites is Headspace. I also provide you with guided meditations that you can put into a note on your phone that you can basically have as a mindfulness app. And the last one here is trackers. There are a ton of trackers out there that will give you some really valuable insights onto your phone. One of my favorites is called OneSec, and it's been sort of making the rounds in the productivity/digital mindfulness community. It does an awesome job of tracking when you open apps, but then also switching you out of certain apps that you don't want to be in. So there are a bunch of digital ways to stay on track. And again, it's all about you having the willingness to change and you having the willingness to make your phone work for you rather than you working for your phone. So finding and setting boundaries. This is the most important part when it comes to finding ways that you interact with your phone. Finding and establishing your own boundaries is key to growth in this area of digital mindfulness. So I really just quickly want to illustrate this by a certain line. And this is an idea that I read about in a book that I can't remember. It is the line between more and enough. This is an excellent framework, in my opinion, for just viewing things, right? It sounds weird, but we live in such a consumer-based culture, right? Everything is all about more all the time. But where do you draw the line between more and enough? Where do you draw the line between more notifications and more phone usage versus enough phone usage? It's completely up to you, the individual, and I encourage you to really reflect on where you do draw the line between more and enough. You should get more used to being without your phone. I think that is the key. You have to also define purposeful uses of social media. Again, I think it's fine to go on social media when it's in a controlled environment. Define when and why you go on an app. Like, Instagram is a huge source of inspiration for me for design work. So going on it for that intentional reason is key. So I think that's another really important part here is intentionality. Intentionality stems from the awareness that you have of when and why you go on phones, on social media, for example. So being more intentional about when you pick up your phone and when you have temptations and when you fall victim to a temptation. And another, huge point of emphasis here is limiting your notifications. That is huge. That's the only reason you get a notification is to pick up your phone. That's why they send notifications. So think about your boundaries. Think about what is the difference between more and enough for you, and you'll be well on your way to having boundaries that help you approach social media and your phone in a more mindful manner. Now that we've designated our digital space, let's examine our physical space and do the same. But before we do that, you already know the deal. I'd love to go over our guided journal questions. So underneath the aptitude adjustment section, there are two things. Utilize this checklist to optimize your phone for minimized doom scrolling. We've added all the things that you saw on the slide. It's a little checklist that you can do to your phone to make it a whole lot more invisible and a whole lot more frustrating and difficult to use. And then next, utilize the mindful wallpaper pack to help you stay more mindful about how you use your device. This is a very simple way to change your device into a thing that reminds you that you're not necessarily supposed to be on it at all times. So, thank you for participating and going through the second lesson of the A module. Can't wait to move on to the third lesson, which is designing your space, which is something that I have a lot of experience with this space here and moving and everything. So I can't wait to get into that with you. I'll see you there. Have fun.